Having a business usually requires an office space where you can meet your clients, or storage where you can keep your supplies, and that could incur high costs if you were to get your own space. But today we'll give you other options you might want to consider. Join me, Ria Tanjuatco-Trillio, as I talk to business owners who aim to provide a flexible working space and accessible storage facilities. You're watching Shop Talk. Storing your home and business possessions, goods, and documents might be expensive, especially if you're starting up. But Loc&Stor 24/7 president and founder Samuel Peterson tells us otherwise. Hi, Sam. Welcome to Shop Talk.
Thank you, Ria. Nice to meet you.
Okay, there's a lot of storage facilities that have been popping up in the metro, and yours is different. What do you do to make it stand out?
What actually got us here? So for years I worked in the chemical sector, and then I actually had a period where I spent some time in private equity, and then joined a company that actually manufactures, designs, and constructs self-storage facilities based in Singapore. It's a global company. They're a leader in Europe and in Australia, and a leader in Asia. So we built facilities across Asia, pretty much all this, well, probably 75% of the facilities across Asia. Japan, Hong Kong, and Singapore were the main markets. So those markets got started about 15 years ago, and they've grown well. But the other markets were slow to take up. So I ran this company for a couple of years, at which point in time I got great exposure to construction, how to build the things, what are the best practices with the different players. But probably more importantly, I got to meet probably some of the greatest minds in the self-storage industry. And that's from operators, that's bankers, that's real estate agents, that's suppliers, et cetera. So I had all this knowledge. I saw how well a number of the operators were doing, and I decided that I would go from being a supplier to actually being a customer of the self-storage company. I looked at a number of markets. I looked across Asia, and including places like China, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, even the established markets, in short list down to the Philippines, Indonesia, and Thailand. Okay, so I spent some time looking at every one of those markets. Spent about 2 months looking at the Philippines. I was looking at the markets, looking at the demographics, figuring out where to actually put the facilities, and then I started looking at buildings. And at that point in time, that's where it got complicated. We were looking for construction companies to work with us, and looked at a lot of facilities in Manila, and was pretty ready to give up, because most of the buildings actually in the Philippines aren't suitable for self-storage. It's mostly office buildings or small shop houses, and they just can't take the loads that you would have for storage. The self-storage model is critical that you're near your catchment, near your customer base. So our customer bases are in Ortigas, in Makati, in SLEX, et cetera. So you actually got to have facilities in there. So I was pretty ready to give it up, and close family friends recommended I speak with somebody they knew that was actually developing an area in Pasig. And they were going to be putting buildings up. So it was a great opportunity for me to get in and actually spec the building, and lo and behold, actually the construction company worked out perfect as well. There was somebody that understood what we needed and were ready to work with us.
All right, so did you build a facility from the ground up, or there was an existing structure that you were able to work with?
This one we built ground up, actually. So the building went in, and then we fit out. It's a three-floor facility. What I've been able to do is take all that knowledge that I learned from the self-storage industry, in addition to my experience running pretty large companies through the years, and my exposure to private equity, and bring that all together to actually put together competitive products here in the Philippines. Because I've got strong understanding of construction, I can keep the costs low, but keep the quality very high, which means our customers come in and see world class. You could walk into any facility in Europe or in Australia or in the US, and you would think you were in one of our facilities. In fact, all the buy-ins that come back and use our facility, as well as the expats, walk in and say, this is better than we've ever seen.
So aside from your personal ties to the Philippines, what made it a good place to invest in for such storage facilities?
Actually, we were a little nervous in the beginning. Actually, we put up the facility. It's a large piece of property, and it was pretty slow for the first year. And in this business, it's a huge capital outlay to build one of these things out. In addition, you've got massive working capital because you're paying rent for space that actually isn't generating revenue for a good part of the 2 to 3 years when you're actually filling the facility. So we were quite nervous, actually. It was going slow. It was going much slower than our business case. We've worked hard on our marketing, which I think has helped to a degree. And we're getting closer to actually what we had hoped for in terms of rates.
So who are your clients? Who's storing their stuff at Loc&Stor?
It's pretty much everybody. It's incredible who you get coming in. There's, I would say, probably about 3/4 residential, mostly A, little bit of B, market, because it is a higher priced product. And then a lot of businesses. It's a perfect, I mean, for residential, it's obvious. Pretty much any time, any major thing in your life, you have a baby, your kids move out, the kids want separate rooms, your folks move in, you're renovating, you're relocating, you separate, some death in the family. Pretty much every event actually is an opportunity for self-storage. It's the business side that actually we're seeing more and more pickup because businesses love our product because we're short-term, so we're month-to-month leases, so you rent as short as 1 month. You can change the size of your facility, your unit from 1 month to the next month. And our units are as small as maybe 8 buy-in boxes to as big as about the size of a half sea container, a 20-foot container. So they're quite large. We offer standard and climate-controlled environments. So if you've got items that are sensitive to heat and humidity, it works out. So for businesses, it's great. They can come in. They don't have a long-term commitment. Right. They don't have to go out and hire security guards. They can access our facility 24/7 with no fee whatsoever. So people come and go at all times. The building itself has access control, so it's a PIN code to enter the building. You can assign different PIN codes to your employees, so you actually know who's coming and going. You get an email every time somebody opens the unit. The unit's alarmed.
Wow, it's fantastic.
It's actually quite...
Talk to me about your marketing. You said it was slow in the first year. How did you get it to pick up?
We worked hard at working on our channels. So, I mean, that's obviously something we hold close to our chest. But it took a lot of experiment. And every market's different. What works in Singapore might not work here. What works in Hong Kong may not work in Singapore, et cetera. So we actually spent a lot of money, and we put a lot of effort into actually finding the right formula, and we continue to work at that. Referrals. I mean, a lot of our business is referrals, and I think I can safely say our customers are highly satisfied. Our turnover is actually very low for what I'm used to in self-storage. So I think people like what they have. And they tell friends. We get a lot of people coming in saying, so-and-so or the cousin of so-and-so told me about this. We were at a dinner party.
What are the challenges associated with selling this kind of service in the Philippines, considering it's relatively new?
I think Filipinos are frugal. They'll drive halfway across town, spend 2 hours in traffic to save 200 pesos on something. So, we really have to provide a value-add service. Businesses especially, it takes actually a business-minded person to actually figure out that using our product is an economic thing. Because when they first look at it, of course, a business person figures out what's the cost per square meter or cost per cubic meter, and they immediately think, but I rent at that amount. But then as soon as they do the math and they start figuring out, well, I rent that much, I only use that much for space because I have to have hallways, I've got to hire security guards, I got to have, have pilferage because I don't have control over my facility, or I might not have access. When they do the math and they add everything up, they come back and say this is actually fair, and it's not a headache for them, and they've got no commitment.
So what are the different services you provide? What are the different sizes of storage that you offer, and is that different from what your competitors have?
I think that the basic offering self-storage is that you provide a cubicle within a building that you can put your own lock on. That's under a relatively short-term contract. That's the most basic. We take that and put a lot on top of that. So I think, last I checked, we're the only operator that provides free 24/7 access to your facility. So you can, for the resident who wants to beat the traffic, they can come in on a Saturday early morning, and we get a lot of them. For the business person who's running a business and can't break away during the day, on the way home, they can stop in and pick up stocks or check on inventories. So 24/7 is really important. high security. So we've got digital CCTV cameras across the entire facility. We've got recording that can cover up to probably 2 to 3 months worth of footage. So we use one of the best, I think the best access control systems in the self-storage industry, which means as a user, you show up, you put your PIN code in, doors open up, lights go on just for the corridors to get to your unit. Your unit has an alarm on it. It's disarmed, so you show up, you unlock it, you've got your lock on the unit, so my staff and others cannot access it. It's your private access. Close it up. When you open the unit, you actually get an email notifying you that actually your unit's been open. So in the event that you're not the one that opened it, you're going to actually know about that. Hopefully not sitting on the beach somewhere. We provide 24/7 security. These are top security. This is from a top security agency in the Philippines. These guys are great. And we provide non-aircon and aircon area. So we've got aircon area, which we call climate control, which is really for just managing the humidity and the heat for high-end.
Yeah, that was my other question. Of course, in the Philippines, you know, we are prone to natural disasters. There's a lot of flooding.
Yeah.
You could have a rodent or vermin problem. How do you guys protect against that?
Yeah, not perfect. So I choose locations that don't get flooded.
Number one.
That's number one. And then even beyond that, we put mechanisms in to address that. So flooding is probably the top 1 or 2 or maybe 3 questions that we often get asked from our customers. From pests and vermins, that we're on top of that all the time. So we have regular extermination coming in, super clean. We recognize this is an extension of your home. I've always said about self-storage that it's not entirely the logical choice. I mean, sometimes it's better to kind of sell the stuff, but it's very much an emotional choice. And because it's an emotional choice, somebody needs to feel like this is their home. This is a place where they can put their Lola's, you know, bureau drawers or whatever that they
Right.
still have fond memories.
Okay, let's talk about the strengths, weaknesses, threats within your business. Strengths, obviously, you've spoken about your experience and bringing the best practices into the company. What are the other strengths?
I think it's my team. We hire very good people. Okay, so we're not afraid to spend a little extra and make sure we get people in there, motivate them. We work closely with them. We listen to them, which I think is important. And that goes everywhere from our salespeople right down to my security guards. I have chats with the security guards all the time. They probably have the most contact with customers of anybody in our business. We get excellent feedback from them. So I think I've got happy employees and we've got customer-oriented employees. We work hard with our suppliers. So I work hard to keep our costs down, but at the same time, I'm extremely fair to them. And when we've got issues, we find solutions that don't hurt them and benefit us at the same time. And we've got vision. I think we've got, you know, we're going to grow this business. We're going to have facilities across Metro Manila, and we're pretty determined at that.
All right. On the other end of the spectrum, what about weaknesses, things that need improvement?
Biggest concerns I have are things that aren't necessarily within my control. You know, there's a lot of, to be honest with you, anybody that's in real estate often has it. I have to go into self-storage because they hear about self-storage. I think it's a great thing. Most of them get filtered out at the first step because it's a huge amount of work. It's very much an entrepreneurial type thing. You can't like hire a team to come in and do it. There's so many specialized items in it. But we're going to get a lot of competition. You know, every week we get somebody coming in who's looking for storage, and they've got a thousand questions, and they're measuring, and they're looking at everything and asking about the lights, which I don't necessarily have an issue with. I mean, we will let it go so far. But you know, 1 in 10 of them are going to turn around and go do something, and 1 in 10 of those that actually do it might actually know what they're doing, and that's okay. Actually, more competitors in this market up to a point is actually good. It means I'm not doing all the marketing, and then they go out and do the marketing, and hopefully some of their customers or potential customers come and look at us. But anyway, so I expect that there's going to be competition, and with that will be, you know, definitely will be price competition. That's why we've worked hard to manage our costs and keep in a strong financial position so that we could weather what might be strong competition on the road.
Lastly, what about threats? You've already spoken about competition and keeping costs down. Is there anything else?
Yeah. What concerns me on the threat front is more with new entrants coming into the market that actually aren't versed in the market. they either try to oversimplify the process. They do things like put storage in an office building, and God forbid we ever have a collapse in floors because they're not able to handle the weight, but they think they don't know enough in terms of what kind of loadings you should have. Fire safety is really important. One of our biggest costs is fire protection in the facility, and many, and I've seen it many times across Asia, new startups don't recognize that. They try to save costs, they don't put in the proper fire protection, and somebody has an accident and causes a big issue, which in the end doesn't necessarily directly hurt us, but from a government standpoint, they're going to get pressure to come in and regulate the sector. So we need to sort of outstep that. And one of the things I've talked to some of the other competitors about is let's put together a self-storage association, help start setting up guidelines and requirements so that we then can work with the government in terms of putting in high standards so we don't get somebody coming in that doesn't know what they're doing and hurt somebody.
Yeah. All right. And it seems to be doing fantastically. Sam Peterson, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ria.
Loc&Stor's strength focused on providing friendly and professional service for its customers. After this break, we'll bring you a one-stop shop for entrepreneurs. What do they offer? That's next when Shop Talk returns.